Hello and welcome to today's session. In today's session, I will discuss about research problem, its importance and steps of formulating research problem. Research problem. A problem is an unavoidable situation which threatens the normal functioning of an individual or group or institution or society. It impacts the general well-being structures. There are various types of problems such as socio-economic, cultural, political, institutional, societal, environmental, physical, functional, psychological, spiritual, and so on. Any questions that we want to answer or want to challenge or investigate can become a research problem or a research topic for study. As a newcomer, it might seem to be easy to formulate a problem, but it requires considerable knowledge of both the subject area and research methodology. Importance of formulating research problem. Formulation of research problem is the first and important step of research process. It is like the identification of a destination before undertaking a journey. A research problem is like a foundation of a building. According to Karlinger, if one wants to solve a problem, one must generally know what the problem is. It can be said that a large part of the problem lies in knowing what one is trying to do. Some questions always need to keep in mind to formulate a research problem, and these are: A. The type of the study design that can be used. B. The type of sampling strategy that can be employed. C. The research instrument that can be used or developed. The type of analysis that can be undertaken. Steps of formulating research problem. There are basically 8 steps, and now I am going to discuss about these 8 steps. The first step is to identify the broad study area. It is a great idea of thinking about the subject area of researcher's interest. The researcher should identify the field in which he or she would like to work. It will help researcher tremendously to get an interesting research topic. For example, if a researcher did his or her graduation in social work, then he or she must consider the core area of research from the same field. He or she might choose contemporary problems like unemployment, addiction, HIV/AIDS, community health, etc. Second step is to break down the broad areas into sub-areas. In this stage, researchers need to dissect and specify broad areas of study into sub-areas. If needed, the researcher should consult with his or her supervisor. The researcher also needs to study the research problem minutely and thereafter must write down the various sub-areas. For example, if researcher selects unemployment as a broad study area, then dissect it maybe as unemployment and social stability, or unemployment and crime, or unemployment and individual frustration, or unemployment and family conditions, etc. These specific areas will help the researcher only to concentrate into a particular theme because unemployment is a vast area. Third step is to mark up researchers' interest. It is impossible to study all sub-areas, and hence the research should select a research topic where he or she is passionate about. Accurate research interest will lead the researcher to complete the study comfortably, otherwise it won't bring any results eventually. Fourth step is to study research questions. Here the researcher need to put some broad questions which require to be covered in his or her study. If unemployment is a study area, then broad research questions may be how unemployment impacts on individual social status, how unemployment affects social stability, how unemployment leads to frustration. These research questions are covering the main theme of the study and also defines the study context. Fifth step is to formulate objectives. Research objectives are the milestones of research which directs all the possible areas to be covered in the study. Study objectives are directly linked with the study findings, discussion, intervention, conclusion, and even for generalization. Objectives need to be formed in logical manner by covering the research problem. This may be good to keep at least 3 objectives while doing master's dissertation. Sixth step is to access objective. For a systematic research study, a researcher must assess objectives in terms of time, budget, available resources, and technical expertise. Technical expertise means statistically sound person who knows which objective will cover the statistical segments. Seventh step is to do double check. The researcher need to check back that either anything important zone is left behind or not. If anything left behind, then here need to rectify. And the last step is to formulation of final research objectives. After rechecking, if everything goes with the motion, then the researcher should formulate the final research objectives to continue the research study. So, this is all about the steps. Now I will read it once more. The first step is to identify the broad study area. Second step, to break down the broad areas into sub-areas. Third step, to mark up researchers' interest. Fourth step, to study research questions. Here, the study covers the broad questions which may not be similar as interview schedules. Interview schedules will have more questions, specific question, direct question, indirect questions. But study research question is the broad question which will cover the entire research. Then next is formulate objectives. Objectives are very important. Without objectives, study may not carry forward, and that's why we need to keep objectives. And I especially suggest for master's dissertation student to keep at least 3 objectives. Maybe the first objective to know the background. Second objective may be the problems and its association, and third objective may be the scope of intervention. In that way you can formulate your own objectives. Sixth step is to assess objectives. Then the next step is to do double check that anything left behind or not. If anything left behind, that you need to refer it back, and if it is okay, then put in your study. And the last step is to formulation of final research objective. After doing all the cross check, you need to keep your final research objectives, which is basically covers the research problem, and here you are trying to get some solution or to understand the problem, and at last you may be able to prepare a theory, or you may contribute to other studies. You may generalize your findings with the broader population. So this is all about research problem and formulating of research problem. I think I have covered most of the areas, and days to come when we'll do the practicum, you will know more about research problem and how to formulate research problem in a scientific manner. With this note, I will conclude today's session. Thank you for listening.